Hello and welcome back to the channel. Demand for House of the Dragon could soon be double that of Rings of Power. That's an interesting headline there, and it's not clickbait. So without further ado, let's get into this story. Now, you may recall a lot of shill headlines coming out for and in support of the Rings of Power when it first debuted. Things like, Rings of Power review, it's so astounding it makes House of the Dragon look amateur. And I have covered this particular article in depth in a previous video. But there were many other articles that seemed to be quietly shilling for Rings of Power. In fact, there was so much positive Rings of Power press when it first debuted that it was kind of overwhelming. I remember having 10 to 15 tabs open in a browser looking at all of these reviews, and every single one of them seemingly having a positive headline. But as I've talked about before, the devil is in the details. And if you read through all those articles, as I read through most of them, the issue with them was there were little caveats in every single article. And most of them talked about how it looked, how great it appeared, costumes and scenes and visual effects and blah, blah, blah. Oh, and the show's a little slow, or the pacing is poor, or the dialogue's a little clunky. Not that much happens in these first two episodes. Maybe it'll get better. Things like that. And it was constant, and it was in every single article. And I predicted that this was basically going to be the get out of jail free card for every single one of those writers. Now, some writers have been consistent in their coverage of how terrible this show actually is. I'm gonna give another shout out to Eric Kane from Forbes here, who has been just crushing it with his many articles about how bad this show is and been covering it from the beginning. But now let's cover this latest story, and that is about the demand for House of the Dragons and how it has absolutely torched Rings of Power. Now, while demand for HBO's House of the Dragon has risen this week, demand for Prime Video's Rings of Power fell by 13%, according to Parrot Analytics data, which takes into account consumer research, streaming, downloads, and social media, among other engagement. And yeah, I'm kind of seeing this myself. You've seen any kind of positive mentions of Rings of Power and even any kind of positive coverage have fallen off a cliff, but I continue to see lots of coverage about House of the Dragon, lots of chatter around that show, not so much around Rings of Power. In fact, the only people who are covering Rings of Power seemingly seem to be the people who hate it, because it's almost exclusively negative coverage. Another week like this, and the Game of Thrones prequel will have twice the demand of the Rings of Power. And I am only 3 episodes in, but I am loving this show. It is really quite good, and I have several clips that I want to cover on the channel now. If the trajectories of these two shows remain the same, it's looking like HBO will have won the much anticipated face-off without there even being much of a fight at all. Holding onto the top spot again, House of the Dragon widened its lead over rival shows on this week's ranking of breakouts. Last week, it looked like the early hype around the series may have been subsiding, but the 13% growth in demand for the show this week put it comfortably ahead of other recent premieres, with 55.4 times the average series demand. Demand for Disney's She-Hulk, in comparison, fell by about 6%, and its relative ranking is about 33.2 times the average series demand. So, She-Hulk is still in the exceptional category, but just barely. And of course, it has edged out Rings of Power at simply 30 times the demand, and that has fallen into the outstanding category. FX's Welcome to Wrexham held on to its 4th place this week, just slightly growing its demand by 2%. And yeah, that's another show that I want to cover, but I've got a few shows that I need to finish up. For example, The Old Man, I need to finish that up. I think I have one episode left to watch on that as far as out of the episodes that are out. So you can see it's not looking good for Amazon's Lord of the Rings of Snore. People are absolutely despising this show, and the media is finally beginning to turn against it. Now, the audience has, for the most part, been against it from the beginning, and there have been obviously a vocal minority that has been against a lot of the changes and the questionable changes to Tolkien's lore. But now it seems like everybody is actually on the same page and are considering the Rings of Power to be the rings of impotence, incompetence, and ineptitude. I'm just absolutely loving House of the Dragon and all of the character development and the plot. And, you know, I'm even enjoying seeing like people like the weak king, Viserys. And yes, he is a weak king. And in this case, that's okay because it's not being done to make all the women look strong. He's just genuinely a weak king. He's a weak character. But for example, his brother Daemon is absolutely crazy in more ways than one, and I just enjoyed seeing him go absolutely ballistic in the second of his name episode in his battle against the crab feeder. Man, that was a good episode. Other things that I enjoyed, like I loved seeing when Rhaenyra actually does what we've all been wanting to see her do. And that was just to jump on a dragon and go and handle some shit, which was awesome when she did that in The Rogue Prince. But of course, I'm just a misogynist and a woman hater because I don't like Galadriel, even though I absolutely love Rhaenyra. Her actions in The Rogue Prince were awesome. And then, of course, I enjoyed seeing what she did in Second of His Name. I enjoyed the scene with the boar and her, and seeing her coming back into camp in Second of His Name during the during Aegon's second name day celebration, and that was just some great content. So if you're not watching this show, I think you're truly missing out. There were some magical moments in these first 3 episodes, and I just can't wait to get through the rest. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below about House of the Dragon and Rings of Power. Are you still watching Rings? Are you watching House of the Dragon? Which one are you enjoying more? In the meantime, if you want to continue to support the channel, then please click the like, share, and subscribe buttons. We are making our push for 1,000 subscribers, and every subscription counts. So if you're enjoying the content, please do help out the channel by subscribing. That's all I have for now. I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.